Today's video, we are going to be priming or bleeding a mechanical diesel fuel injection system and just talking some general information. Also, depending on how this project goes, this fuel system might not be the only thing bleeding by the end of the day. This is just going to be kind of an overview, not necessarily particular to this tractor, but most mechanical diesel fuel injection systems in general. I don't make these types of videos, repair videos, because I think I'm so doggone smart and just need to share my information with the world. I do think that, but that's not the reason. The real reason I make these types of videos is because in my own search of information, I've been guilty of searching the tube. And I've found some good videos, but I've also found some idiots who are dumber than a box of rocks who've made videos with just terrible information or giant holes in the information that they gave. And they skipped over something very important. I don't care if those people have said that they've personally done hundreds of these repairs. That doesn't mean anything. That just means that they've personally done hundreds of these repairs wrong. And my issue is somewhere along the line, some poor sap is going to find that video, and since they don't have half the brain that God gave a chicken, they're not going to be able to discern the good information from the bad. And they're going to apply this information to their project and potentially ruin something. And the cherry on top of this whole thing is some dumb mechanic who's dumber than both those two parties combined is going to be tasked with trying to fix it. So for whatever reason, you need to prime this fuel system, whether it was replacing the injection pump, whether you replaced the fuel filters, whether you were too lazy to look at your fuel gauge or your fuel gauge quit working and you ran out of fuel. Doesn't matter, we got to prime this fuel system. So let's start at the very beginning. Is there enough fuel in your fuel tank? I shouldn't have to say this, but I have to say this. The number of times a no start is no fuel in the tank is ridiculous. So start there. Well, since we're on the topic, if you ever get into a bad batch of fuel, water in the fuel, contaminated fuel, whatever, you have to drain your tanks, you have to drop your tanks, and you have to clean your tanks, whether this is a pickup truck or piece of machinery. Get an old crappy cheap shop vac. If it's diesel fuel, suck the crap out of the bottom, get it clean, rinse it, whatever you got to do. Also, don't use a shop vac on gasoline. It will light it on fire. Just saying. This is just personal preference, but I really like having these clear plastic inline pre-filters on machinery. That way you can kind of tell the quality of the fuel you're using by how quickly these filters turn darker than my sense of humor. Even though I don't have a lot of experience with big trucks, there are some of the semi-tractor fuel systems that I see as quite Neanderthalic, meaning they don't seem to have a good way of priming the fuel system. In that case, a lot of times I'll just take new, clean fuel, fill the new fuel filter to the top, spin the old fuel filter off as fast as I can and spin the new one on. That way you don't drain more fuel out of the system than you have to. Then you just kind of crank it until she lights up or until the batteries go dead, whichever. So in this situation, we need to prime these fuel filters. So look for a bleeder on the top of your fuel filter housing on the exit side. If you don't have one like this, it's okay to break the line loose to fill your fuel filters. I didn't have this one tight enough, so I got to use a backup wrench here. All right. This is an 8.3 Cummins. This is actually a Case IH 7120 Magnum, but that's not important. This is a mechanical lift pump, meaning it runs off of a cam lobe on the camshaft, and it primes the fuel mechanically, but it also has this primer button. Basically, you start pumping until something good happens. Oh, now we're getting fuel, see? Okay. Like I said, depending on the situation, you might want to fill these with fresh, clean fuel. This system bleeds up pretty doggone easily, so I just spun those filters on, and because this engine was on the engine stand when I put those on to keep dirt out, I didn't want to fill them and potentially leak all over the place, and I need to quit talking quite so much right now. Doesn't that look like some really tasty Kool-Aid? If you ever have a question whether you're got any fuel coming, you can put your finger over it. Yep. See it's building pressure? Yep, that lets me know it's working. Let's put that back in a little bit so it don't squirt the camera. Okay. Let's tighten that. Fuel filters are full. Now we have fuel in our fuel filters. We're ready to move up to the injection pump. And if you have replaced your injection pump with a new pump, reman pump, used pump, whatever, replace your fuel filters unless they're like brand new. And also, if you've replaced your injection pump, pay someone to inject your injectors, or just replace them. Mechanical style injectors, especially for something like this, are not that expensive. But right now we're going to talk about bleeding. So this is the supply line, and this is the return. We could pop this loose, but it's not necessary on this type of injection pump. I'm just going to keep pumping this. And we're going to force fuel into the injection pump. Oh, I can feel some. You hear that? I'm going to put my microphone right up to it. Okay, so in this return fitting, there is a poppet valve, which is basically a ball bearing on a seat with a spring. So we build enough pressure up in here where it's forcing the air out, and I think I can actually hear the fuel. Okay. Okay, we got all the air out of it. Now we crack a couple of injector lines loose with the right sized end wrench, of course. We crack these loose, and typically you can get away with 2 to 3 injectors on a 6-cylinder. That'll get you primed up. Now, it's a good idea to wiggle these because sometimes they get so seated in there that they don't come loose and let the air out. So let's break these ones loose. And then I don't know if you can see this one over here. I use a miter saw stand for a camera stand, so I apologize. Okay, that's free. That's free. Okay. Now we got to crank the engine until fuel comes out. Okay, I hope that didn't get on the camera, but now we got fuel out all 3 of them, so we can tighten those up. You should probably wear gloves when working with diesel fuel and stuff, because this stuff soaks to the other side, but I kind of figure most mechanics, it's a race between liver failure, lung cancer, and high blood pressure to kill you anyway, so whatever. That helped us get all the air purged out of the plungers in the injection pump, and that should be enough to start it. Now this may not be real relevant, but it's my video, so you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. I have had on mechanical injectors where bad fuel, parts came out of the pump, something happened, and there was junk got in the pintle of the injector. On a common rail, well, you have like 20,000 psi of fuel pressure sitting on top of that injector. So if you have a sticking pintle, it's just going to spray fuel and torch a hole right in your piston. On a mechanical injector, yeah, they're going to be drooly, shall we say. But if you have a sticking pintle, I've had where we couldn't get them to start, and you were cracking injector lines to try and bleed it up, and then you had one injector that was pushing foamy fuel, like just way squirting it out, and the thing would start. You'd tighten that injector down, and it would run bad or stall out or something. Well, what was happening is that pintle was stuck, and it was leaking cylinder pressure through the injector, pushing it into the injection pump, and basically aerating the injection pump so it would be trying to push combustion instead of straight fuel. I guess I don't know where I was going with that. If this was a reman injection pump, you better just assume that nobody at this point in time can do their job or cares to do their job. Better figure that they're derelict and they screwed something up. Tested just means it's as good as the person doing the test. So where I'm going with that is they might have screwed something up in the governor, whether you messed with it or me, shall we say. This has a rubber supply line before the lift pump. So get yourself a set of needle nose vice grips already set to go and crimp this fuel line off in case this injection pump runs away when I start it. Now, if this was a used injection pump, same deal. You better figure that the guy selling you this injection pump on Marketplace, whether it's for a piece of machinery or pickup truck, is actively trying to screw you. Just figure 90% of people are actively trying to screw you, and you will be happy and thankful when you find it's probably only 1% that isn't actively trying to screw you. There's a reason that part got removed, and that goes for that all billet transmission that stupid kid's trying to sell, or that engine, whatever, that you drove to Pennsylvania for. It's probably junk, and that's why it's for sale. In the case of you teenaged truck guys that went on the internet and found the way to turn up your 12 valve, don't even start it. I guarantee you already screwed something up. The pump's going to run away. You dropped parts in it after removing the fuel plate or farting around with the governor springs. Those parts are going to just explode the case when you try to start it, and we're not even going to have a rebuildable core. In that case, I do still want you to have these needle-nosed vice grips, but I'm going to have you crimp something else off instead. Anyway, this engine I just got done overhauling, so I'm really hoping I didn't screw anything up. We're going for broke. We're going to try and start it. Okay, it started. We're going to check for leaks, but that's not the point of this project. It started funny and barely ran, but that's because we only cracked 3 injector lines loose. I knew it was going to start. It doesn't hurt to do all 6 or 8, depending on what you're dealing with. But this one primed up and went. I revved it up a little bit. There you go. I hope this wasn't too ranty for you. I guess I was just kind of grouchy today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time if you care to join us. Thank you.